Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Thursday. Number 1, a major escalation of tensions in the Persian Gulf region.
The U.S. Navy says it is assisting 2 oil tankers reportedly attacked in the Gulf of Oman today. The military is not elaborating on who may be responsible for that attack. Reports say at least one vessel may have been hit by a torpedo and was on fire.
The situation has already driven oil prices up sharply this morning, and it comes as Japan's prime minister is in Iran trying to smooth tensions between Tehran and the U.S. just weeks after 4 other tankers were attacked in the region.
Number 2, the comments from President Trump igniting new controversy.
During an exclusive interview with ABC News, the president acknowledged that if a foreign government offered him dirt on arrival in the 2020 campaign, he would take it. The president said he may not even alert the FBI about the offer.
And he said the FBI director is wrong for suggesting the Bureau should be informed. The remarks have sparked new calls among Democrats for impeachment proceedings.
On to number 3, a possible link between a suspect in the David Ortiz shooting case and a shooting in Pennsylvania. That news broke overnight as we learned more about the ambush on Ortiz and how much money the suspects were allegedly paid to try to kill the former baseball star. The motive for the shooting remains a mystery. The Associated Press reported that a brief relationship in Santo Domingo may have led to the shooting, but authorities are not commenting further.
As for the one suspect still on the loose, he's also wanted in connection with a shooting in Pennsylvania. Last year, the victim in that case was also shot in the back. We head to St. Louis for number 4. They're expected to hold a victory parade for the new Stanley Cup champions Saturday.
The Blues won their first ever title last night with a 4-1 victory over the Boston Bruins. The team completed a remarkable turnaround. Back in January, they had the worst record in the league.
One great moment after the game was when Layla Anderson, a young St. Louis fan fighting HLH disease, got to celebrate with that Stanley Cup.
So exciting. And finally, number 5, a house in San Francisco that will make you feel like you're doing time in Alcatraz.
The home, which is now up for sale, has a basement that looks more like a prison with jail cells and bunk beds. The walls are even lined with mugshots of notorious Alcatraz inmates, including Al Capone.
The owner reportedly rented the basement for $10,000 a month.
What?
We've got a lot more to talk about coming your way.
These are my bars.
In prison.
Jail cell. It's Morning America.
Good morning. We have some breaking news. 2 oil tankers were reportedly attacked in the Gulf of Oman. Let's get right to Julia McFarland in our London bureau. Julia, good morning.
Good morning, Kenneth. Good morning, Janae. Yes, we're following those developments in the Persian Gulf. A statement from the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. That's a division of the Navy that's headquartered in Bahrain, and they are responsible for the Persian Gulf. They say, we are aware of a reported attack on tankers in the Gulf of Oman. U.S. naval forces in the region received 2 separate distress calls at 6 a.m. local time and a second one at 7 a.m. local time. The U.S. Navy is now providing assistance. And we can also say now that 44 crew members, around a dozen from those 2 oil tankers, have reportedly been rescued by Iran. They are now back on dry land following the attack on these 2 tankers. Now, the Navy's statement came after the distress calls that it mentions. They came after local reports from Pakistani and Omani outlets saying that there had been reports from locals of an incident, explosions on these tankers, and some reports are suggesting that these tankers were hit by a missile, reportedly. So we're following those developments, and of course it's important to say that this incident comes just a month after 4 oil tankers were attacked. 4 Emirati oil tankers were attacked in a similar area. Now, Saudi Arabia and its allies in the Gulf have blamed Iran. Iran has denied any responsibility for this. It's unclear at the moment what might have happened earlier this morning, but this is a really, really geopolitically sensitive and critical area. The Strait of Hormuz, which is just around the corner from the Gulf of Oman, 20% of the world's oil passes through that chokehold. After that incident a month ago, oil prices rose by nearly 4%. The price of oil this morning bouncing up another 4% after this latest incident. So a lot is at stake here, but at least we can say it seems that the crew and those on board these 2 tankers, they all seem to have been safely rescued from those oil tankers. Another thing to note is that the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is currently in Tehran on a diplomatic trip, the first time a Japanese Prime Minister has been in Iran for 4 decades. And before he left for his trip, of course, President Trump had just recently come back from a trip to Japan. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had spoken to Mr. Trump by phone before leaving for that trip in Iran. Kenneth, Janae.
Our thanks to Julia there. We will check back in with you in just a moment. But let's get back to that other big story. President Trump under fire after telling ABC News he would accept damaging information about a political opponent in 2020 offered by a foreign power, including Russia.
ABC's George Stephanopoulos got incredible access to the president over 48 hours. Take a look.
We had 2 packed days of extraordinary access. It started Tuesday. The president was heading to Iowa.
How are you? George? Good to see you. Thank you.
And he invited us on Air Force One. And that famed presidential limo called the Beast.
This is some piece of machinery. Oh, this is amazing.
And while the president landed in one part of Iowa, Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden in another.
Donald Trump is trying to take away your protections for pre-existing conditions.
I asked the president about those reports that he's trailing Biden in the polls.
Well, I don't believe those polls. There's no way he beats me in Texas. So
but even your own polls show you're behind right now, don't they?
No, my polls show that I'm winning everywhere.
I don't know. We've all seen these reports that with 15 out of 17 states, you spent $2 million on a poll and you're behind in 15 out of 17 states.
Nobody showed you those polls because those polls don't exist, George. Those polls don't exist. You mean I'm losing in 15 out of 17 states? Those polls don't exist. I just was given a meeting with my pollster, who I frankly don't even believe in pollsters, if you want to know the truth. You just run a campaign, and whatever it is, it is. But I just had a meeting with somebody that's a pollster, and I'm winning everywhere.
But the president wanted to know more, so a few seconds later, he asked to go off the record to call his campaign manager.
Just call Brad on the phone, and I want to ask him that question, okay?
And those polls still on his mind the next morning when we meet. He'd already tweeted about it.
On Good Morning America today, they had that phony polling information. I explained to you last night that it was phony, but you didn't do anything about it. You should have, but it was late in the evening and perhaps you didn't get a chance to call.
I didn't see the piece this morning. I listened to, I've studied those polls. I've heard the explanations for them.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
But why does it bother you so much?
Because it's untrue. I like the truth. You know, I'm actually a very honest guy.
As we talked in the Oval Office, the president's son was heading to the Senate Intelligence Committee for more testimony.
Your son, Don Jr., is up before the Senate Intelligence Committee today. And again, he was not charged with anything. In retrospect, though,
by the way, not only wasn't he charged, if you read it, with all of the horrible fake news, I mean, I was reading that my son was going to go to jail. This is a good young man, that he was going to go to jail.
Don Jr. had been caught up in the Russia investigation because of that Trump Tower meeting in 2016, which he set up expecting to get dirt on Hillary Clinton from the Russian government.
Okay, let's put yourself in a position. You're a congressman. Somebody comes up and says, hey, I have information on your opponent. Do you call the FBI? I don't think.
Coming from
I'll tell you
Russia,
what,
you do.
I've seen a lot of things over my life. I don't think in my whole life I've ever called the FBI. In my whole life. You don't call the FBI. Life doesn't work that way.
The FBI director says that's what should happen.
The FBI director is wrong because, frankly, it doesn't happen like that in life.
Your campaign this time around, if foreigners, if Russia, if China, if someone else offers you information on an opponent, should they accept it or should they call the FBI?
I think maybe you do both. I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening. If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it.
The reaction to the president's comments overnight has been strong, with some Democrats calling for impeachment proceedings to begin immediately. ABC's Lana Zach joined us now from Washington with the latest. Lana, good morning.
Good morning, guys. That's right. There are some of those 2020 hopefuls like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Elizabeth Warren, who had previously said that the president should be impeached, who are now doubling down following those comments in that exclusive interview from George Stephanopoulos. But we aren't seeing a lot of people actually changing their minds in terms of impeachment based off of this. The people who thought that the president should already be impeached, well, they seem to be digging in even further, using this as evidence. But others, like 2020 hopeful Senator Kamala Harris. She's saying that it demonstrates that the president is more self-interested than interested in our democracy, but she isn't using the impeachment word, nor is Vice President Joe Biden. We're also hearing from a Republican, at least one of them today, who says he disagrees with the president's idea that this is simply opposition research to accept dirt on a political opponent from a foreign entity, and that it is commonly done among Congress people, as the president told Stephanopoulos. He says that he would immediately contact the FBI, and in fact, that coincides with what we heard from FBI Director Christopher Wray and President Trump's own Attorney General William Barr, who disagreed really with the president's position. The president saying that they are mistaken in suggesting that his campaign should not accept this type of opposition research. We haven't heard yet from the FBI a response to this interview yet today. Kenneth, Janae.
And our thanks to Lana there in Washington, and our thanks to George Stephanopoulos for that exclusive interview.
You can see more of it later today right here on ABC News Live and during a primetime special next week.
Former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks has agreed to appear before the House Judiciary Committee. The closed-door interview set for next week will make her the first former Trump aide to testify before the panel, which is looking into potential obstruction by the president. The White House reportedly told Hicks to defy a subpoena for documents.
The House Oversight Committee has voted to recommend holding 2 Trump administration officials in contempt of Congress. At issue is the decision to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. Attorney General William Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross are defying subpoenas to turn over documents related to their decision. And before the House vote, President Trump exerted executive privilege over the documents. Democrats say the citizenship question would lead to an undercount of minorities and benefit Republicans. The Supreme Court is already considering the case and is expected to rule this month.
A House committee has agreed to extend the 9/11 Victims Fund after that emotional appeal from Jon Stewart. Lawmakers acted quickly after Stewart criticized them for allowing the fund for first responders to dwindle. The full House is expected to approve the bill in August. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is being urged to quickly take up the issue.
A powerful cyber attack could be part of China's response to massive protests in Hong Kong. The messaging app Telegram says it was targeted by the attack. It's frequently used to organize protests in Hong Kong. A proposed law that would allow extradition to mainland China has brought huge crowds into the street. At least 72 people were injured in clashes with police yesterday, which forced lawmakers to delay debate on the proposal. The first defendant sentenced in the college admissions scandal is beginning his punishment, not behind bars. Former Stanford sailing coach John Vandermoor will serve 2 years of supervised release, including 6 months of home detention. He will also pay a $10,000 fine. Vandermoor admitted to helping students get into Stanford in exchange for money for his sailing program. The judge called Vandermoor the least culpable of all those charged in the scandal because he didn't take any of the bribe money for himself. Singer John Legend is performing a duet with Pampers. He's not wearing them. He's talking about the company. They're teaming up to put 5,000 changing tables in men's public restrooms across the U.S. and Canada by 2021. The move is part of Pampers' Love the Change campaign. It was sparked by last year's viral video showing a Florida dad changing his son while squatting on the floor of a public bathroom. Well, coming up, a man, a dream, and a lawnmower, and a new world record. We'll have the details after this. Well, we turn now to the search for a mother and her daughter on the run this morning.
Police in Oregon say the two took off together after the mother refused to get the cancer treatment that doctors say her daughter needs. And this story is reigniting the debate over parental rights. This morning, the search is intensifying for a 13-year-old Oregon girl who's fighting cancer.
Kylie has some medical needs, and we want to make sure that we get her the help that she needs.
Overnight, police releasing a description now saying Kylie Dixon and her mother, Christina, are traveling in an orange Jeep Wrangler. According to investigators, they've been on the run since Kylie missed a scheduled surgery for her illness. Her mother claimed on a GoFundMe page that traditional medicine has not been working to treat Kylie's cancerous tumor. Online posts from family members say Christina has been relying on natural medicine, including CBD oil, to treat her daughter.
I find that really shocking. I believe that every parent should have a right to treat their child, what they see fit.
The teen was ordered into state custody earlier this month, but when investigators went to their home, Christina and Kylie were nowhere to be found.
When they went to look for Kylie on June 7th at her residence, it was apparent that they were not there any longer.
Hi, my name is Kylie.
In this YouTube video shown by ABC station KATU, Kylie is seen discussing her treatment, saying the chemo was killing her, and saying she wants help for her mother to treat her at home.
I couldn't even walk, talk, or breathe on my own, so that next treatment would have killed me. But my mom said no. It sucks to see my mom trying so hard to save my life again.
Police say they believe Kylie and Christina are still in the Portland area. The hospital where she was being treated will not discuss the case because of privacy rules. Let's go across the pond now to Julia McFarland in the London Bureau. Good morning, Julia. What are you watching for us?
So following those reports earlier this morning of those two oil tankers which reportedly have come under attack off the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf of Oman, it's an interesting time for these escalations because at the moment the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is on a visit to Iran where he is meeting the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. It is the first time a Japanese leader has been to Iran in 4 decades. Now, officially the reason for this trip is they are celebrating 90 years of a diplomatic relationship. But of course, this trip is coming in the middle of all of these geopolitical tensions in that very sensitive part of the world. Remember that President Trump went on a state visit to Japan very recently, and so Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is possibly playing a key diplomatic role between the United States and Iran. A little bit of background. Remember, President Trump, he pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal last year. Sanctions have been applied onto Iran, and Iran is really angry about that. And so Prime Minister Abe, speaking yesterday, he said, amid rising tension, it is essential for Iran to play a constructive role in strengthening peace and stability in the Middle East so that this region won't be destabilized further or accidental clashes won't happen. Now, that's kind of a veiled reference to the escalations between the US and Iran. Remember that the US sent an aircraft carrier to the region after last month's escalations when 4 oil tankers reportedly came under attack, similar incident to what may have happened this morning. The US and its allies in the Gulf, notably Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis, they've blamed Iran. Iran said it's not responsible. So there is a lot happening in this region. But just before Abe visited Iran, he telephoned Mr. Trump. So it's thought that there is some coordination on trying to defuse this escalating crisis, Kenneth.
Oh, that timing definitely is interesting. Julia, so I understand if you want to live like a queen, you now can. You got some details about one of the queen's homes. It's up for sale.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you say if you want to live like a queen, you can. I mean, let's just take a look at this place because I don't know about you. Now this is
that doesn't really seem regal, does it?
Well, let's give it a case. So what is this that we're looking at? This is the Queen's former resident in Malta. The Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, once called it home. They've put it up for sale for more than $7 million. It is the Villa Guardamangia. I've probably mangled that pronunciation. It is a palazzo-style mansion on the outskirts of the Maltese capital, Valletta, and it was a royal residence during the early years of their marriage. Remember, Philip was a naval officer. He was stationed in Malta for a little bit. So this was where they lived. It's got 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a grand salon, nobile, living room. I'm not really sure what that means. Needless to say, it's probably something very posh. Not to mention various guest servant quarters. The property has great historical value. But I mean, look at it, Kenneth. It's a bit of a dump.
It needs
right?
a little upkeep.
I mean, it looks like that. It looks like the Herculaneum. It looks like Pompeii. Like, where's the windows? Where's the indoor? I don't know. Maybe it was in better shape, and maybe it's seen better days. But.
Right. I'm curious about what's living in there now. So yeah, if you want to buy it, you got to kick some critters out, some wildlife indeed. Okay. So Julia, stick around. Help me go through these notifications here, starting with a gender reveal announcement that's going viral. So this is a wildlife.
Let me guess. This is Florida, right?
You know Florida. You're across the pond, but you still know Florida,
guess.
Julia.
That's just a wild guess.
Yes, and you would be right. This happened right here where, yes, it's a girl. That was revealed there, this wildlife trapper. He and his wife wanted to really go all out for the reveal for their 10th child. And there you see that giant gator. You don't have gators over there in London, do you?
In the zoo,
right.
Not like frolicking around in, the neighborhood.
Yeah, not at all.
This is mental for me, but yeah. It's different, right?
A little prehistoric
it's
there.
Different.
That's a little different, yes. This is also different, Julia. Have you ever mowed the lawn? I don't know, you're in the big city of London, so I don't know how many big lawns you have.
I have a garden that's the size of a postage stamp.
Okay.
And I use hand shears, and it kills my back.
Well, it would take you about 0.0003 seconds if you had this supercharged lawnmower to do the job. This is set a Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest lawnmower acceleration. What do you think about that?
That's not a lawnmower. That is not a... Are you serious? Where's the chopping bits? Where's the... That's not...
And the thing is, he's on the street, but he could be mowing the lawn there. I see some patches of green there next to him on that road. He should be move over a little bit, right?
Do you know what, Kenneth? I think we should try and borrow one of those and take it to Central Park and take it for a spin, and let's see if it really can chop up some grass.
Here's an idea. How about we take that to Malta, to the Queen's property, do some work there?
We don't just need a lawnmower. We'd need a forklift. We'd need construction work. We'd need like a wrecking ball, and we'd need some glaziers. What else? It is a huge plot, but I want to see pictures of what it looked like when the Queen and Philip did.
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? And the funny thing is, I'm trying to figure out if we saw this on The Crown. I saw that. I loved that series on Netflix, and we're waiting for the new season of it to come out with a different actress playing the Queen. And if we're going to watch it, I think I want to watch it on this extra large TV. Samsung has this now, where it literally is the wall luxury, they're calling it. It starts at just 73 inches wide, but it can be expanded to 292 inches diagonally. That's more than 24 feet across. I cannot break that down to you in metrics over there for across the pond.
That's more than the length of my living room wall.
Yes.
I cannot physically fit that in my house.
I think you could, Julia. I think you could fit that.
I couldn't even fit that in my garden. I don't think my garden's 24 feet wide. That is one can dream, right?
One really could dream. And Julia, I will say this is also our question of the day for folks is how big is too big for your TV? Julia, I have to tell you that when I was...
I draw the line at fitting it inside my house.
Yes, that's a good one. I actually bought a TV that was like a 55-inch when this was in my 20s, early on.
Yeah.
I finally had gotten some money, my TV jobs. I'm like, I'm going to buy a big old LG TV. And I bought it, and I put it in my small apartment in Orlando, and it was just way too big. And I actually took it back to the store and got something that was like 42 inches. And a coworker of mine at the time says, a man never takes back a large television. You keep the TV.
Well, no one likes sitting right at the front in the cinema, right?
Oh,
sometimes too big is too big. You want a little bit of distance. You don't want to be sitting there staring at a whole thing, because then your eyes have got to move too much to get from, one. I think maybe 40 inches is probably fine, and that I think would just about fit in my teeny London flat. Just about.
I will say there are many movies I have not gone to see because only that front row was available. So, Julia, we really appreciate you helping us with those notifications. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks, Kenneth. See you tomorrow.
And folks, don't forget that question of the day. Please tweet us at ABC News Live. Let us know what you think. How big is too big for a television? And would you want that one that they're offering up? Well, coming up, the team that was dead last in January now lifting the Stanley Cup, the good luck charm that helped the St. Louis Blues capture their first championship after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump has a working lunch with governors on workforce freedom and mobility and will give remarks on second chance hiring at the White House this afternoon.
Vice President Pence will take a tour of Yellowstone and speak about rebuilding infrastructure in U.S. national parks. And the Golden State Warriors will play their last game in Oracle Arena, trying to force a Game 7 in the NBA Finals as the Toronto Raptors try to close out their first ever championship. Plus, don't forget to tune into The Debrief for an update on all our top stories and The Briefing Room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
Speaking of the NBA, some history has just been made.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have made Lindsey Gottlieb the first women's college coach to join the ranks of the NBA as an assistant coach. ABC's Brad Mielke is working on this. Brad.
And you know, guys, it's not even just coaches. Just in the last couple days, the New Orleans Pelicans have hired a former WNBA star for their front office. Women have been climbing up the ranks as scouts and consultants, but the question's always been, will we see more women on the sidelines of NBA games? The answer is yes. For the last 7 years, Lindsey Gottlieb has been the head coach at Cal Berkeley. Well, now she's taken a job as an assistant with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, this is the second woman in the NBA to get a full-time coaching gig. I talked to ESPN's Sage Steele, who's covered the NBA for years, and I asked her, what are the teams seeing now that they weren't seeing before?
You know, sometimes it just takes one team to do something a little bit unorthodox. Then the other people kind of go, oh, wow, that is a really good idea. And of course, the first was the San Antonio Spurs several years ago with Becky Hammon. Here's the thing. Basketball is basketball. And sometimes I think it's really helpful for other voices to be heard, even if the message is the same.
And you know what's interesting here, you guys, she said, this is not lip service from the players. Fans at times have asked, can a woman coach in the men's league? She says players genuinely believe what she said, that basketball is basketball. She says the mutual respect is there throughout the league. We'll have a lot more on Start Here later this morning. Listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. Janae, Kenneth?
Looking forward to that, Brad. Thank you. Definitely a trendsetter. And
absolutely. Love seeing that.
We mentioned earlier this morning, it'd be great when this is not news.
Right. It's just the norm.
Mm-hmm. And in hockey, the St. Louis Blues scored their first Stanley Cup victory since joining the league in 1967.
The Blues have been waiting 52 years for their first Stanley Cup.
And last night's game itself was definitely one for the books. Our Will Gans breaks it down.
An NHL Finals that has divided just about everyone. Bruins and Blues, Boston and St. Louis. Even Jim and Pam from The Office. Michael Scott himself, Steve Carell, taking sides, tweeting this pic in a Bruins cap. The stakes couldn't be higher. Bruins captain Zdeno Chara returning to the ice with a possible broken jaw after being hit with a puck in Game 4. But the Blues up early, 2-0 after the first period. Speaking of Blues, Charles Barkley providing commentary in a blue dress shirt over a blue polo in between periods. Strangely, no one putting him in the penalty box for that. Also wearing blue, Layla Anderson, a young St. Louis fan fighting HLH disease. The Blues surprising her with Game 7 tickets in a video that's gone viral.
I'm going to Boston.
With their good luck charm in the stands, the Blues going on to win Game 7 4-1 over the Bruins, taking home their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, 52 years in the making.
So this Blues victory ends the longest wait in NHL history for a team to win its first championship. And Layla Anderson, that beautiful moment, the Blues superfan we introduced you to, take a look at the moment she got her own well-deserved celebration with that beautiful Stanley Cup.
Such a great story for her. So much excitement in that city. As the kids used to say, well, I'm not, but I'm from the Lou and I'm proud. I'm sure lots of people from the Lou
I'm from the Lou and I'm proud, and I'm going to hoist that Stanley Cup up proud. Oh my God, did that just rhyme?
No, you just said the same word twice. Proud and proud.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
it rhymes.
We'll stick to news. That's it for us today.
We will see you tomorrow to close out this week. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.